Hello, my name is Patrick Mockridge. Welcome to the third part of my talk, Reducing Competitions for the Serial Channels of Belonging, Bitcoin Modeled as White Noise, and the Radical Parallelization of Work in the 21st Century. This part 3 is about sort of establishing your place within the system of the 0 to 1 process calculus we've been through before. And it's going to get quite interesting, quite kind of theoretical, and quite a lot to cover. And you know, just for starters, you know, I don't have all the answers here. You know, I'm just starting to unlock the game theory of this, and I would invite you to take a look at this yourself and see what you yourself can come up with. And you know, please post stuff in the comments if you think I've missed something or you've come up with something new. Okay, so in part 2, we identified kind of 2 new sequestration channels. The one on the left here that kind of sequesters people, and the one on the right that sequesters money. Okay, and that's in addition to this sort of obvious one that we discussed in the first talk. Okay, and then sort of at the end of talk 2, I sort of introduced the Romeo-Juliet diagram, which starts to model this 0 to 1 path as a game between you, the participant, and sort of anyone who's acting against your interests, either in concert or separately in parallel. You know, you can just sort of lump those all together and call them Mallory, the malicious hacker. And then in the yellow square, you've got an eavesdropper, and this eavesdropper at the start of the game will be working for Mallory because Mallory has all the resources. Likewise, this Sybil attacker on the red square will be working for Mallory at the start as well. Okay, but you know, and the idea with this talk is to sort of get into how Oscar here on the green square can start moving into this yellow square, and you know, start to look at kind of the things that are going to happen to him when he tries to do this, and kind of what he can do to defend himself and push on his path. Okay, so small print up front. You know, this is basically martial arts. Okay, so this here is an adversarial game. Okay, and if you come under Sybil attack, or there's people eavesdropping on you with a lot of resources behind them and yada yada yada, you know, it's serious stuff. You know, so you know, use this information responsibly. You know, don't go trying to take down the biggest thing you can find first of all. You know, this map here is the size of your awareness of the reality you're in. You know, so make sure you're operating within a range you're comfortable in. Okay, and your end goal must be something you know is fundamentally right from your own life experience. Okay, you know, don't go around trying to be the big man, because there's people who are good at this, schooled in this, and you know, very easy to get put on your arse. Okay, so you know, and you know, continuing the martial arts theme, you know, consider yourself in a dojo now, and you know, if you use this information maliciously, you know, I can't help you, and you're probably bad things are gonna happen to you. Okay, so just bear that in mind going forward. Okay, so Mallory knows that Oscar wants to take this kind of path that we mapped out in the first talk. Okay, so you want to go from green to yellow to red to blue. Okay, so Mallory is going to use all counterposing channels to that to attack Oscar. Okay, and you'll notice these two-way channels here map precisely to the sequestration channels that we talked about in talk 1 and talk 2. So there's a two-way channel down the left, the two-way channel down the right, and then the two-way diagonal channel. Okay, and you know, just to give a bit of background on the Romeo-Juliet diagram, like, this is one way of thinking about how deathly embrace can occur. Okay, and if you put Romeo and Juliet on the green and the blue square, okay, either Romeo or Juliet here or here, okay, for Juliet to get live, she needs to become a Montague. Okay, and the Capulets are just gonna declare that dead on arrival. Like, that's a constraint that the red square will never accept. Okay, so this is essentially a dead game where neither side can learn enough about each other to kind of proceed in the game, okay? And we kind of want to think about that when we're making our push for the yellow square. Like, we don't want to do things that the red square, we don't want to do things ostensibly that the red square is just going to declare dead on arrival and just deny outright, okay? So, you know, push things for the yellow square should be mutually inclusive, and, you know, tempt Sybil to engage with it in a reasonably constructive way, okay? And this is about game mechanics and framing the game you want to play on the yellow square in the right way. So, you know, something like this, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, in the actual play, you know, it probably wouldn't have flown either. You know, they both hate each other, but, you know, some kind of thing that tries to seek peace or common understanding on the yellow square is gonna do a lot better than things that are just like openly adversarial, okay? So, you know, back to Alice in Wonderland, you know, Oscar is Alice in Wonderland, and Alice wants to send a message to Bob here on the yellow square, okay? And you kind of want Alice. Most of the people on this yellow square are going to be some sort of Eve, because Mallory has the resources, but there might be a few Bobs, okay? But mostly what you're going to be doing is you're going to be trying to turn an Eve into a Bob by like offering them something that they want, okay? And you know, why is Oscar Alice in Wonderland? Well, because all his incoming channels are essentially controlled from Mallory, so he's only getting kind of fake news on all channels, okay? So, you know, if we take out all the other channels except the one that Oscar is receiving from, you know, guess what? They're coming from Eve, Sybil, and Mallory, okay? So, you know, this is why it's a sort of an Alice in Wonderland experience doing stuff like this, because you're starting from a place where pretty much all your incoming information is going to be compromised in some way, you know, and this starts to explain why networks have this kind of toxic side to them, okay? So, you know, which of these is not a sequestration channel? Okay, well, you probably remember that it's the one to the yellow square, okay? So, you know, it's the move to yellow square that Oscar has viable moves into, because the other two are sequestration channels, okay? And, you know, kind of getting ahead of ourselves a bit. This says Eve, it should say Mallory, but we'll just brush over that for now. Just pretend this says Mallory. And, you know, if we imagine we have a third participant in the Alice Bob story called Carol. Okay, Oscar is now Carol. If Oscar is trying to send a message to the yellow square, ideally he wants an Alice on this yellow square that's taking messages and helping them on their way to the red square. Okay, so in this way, you know, try and think ahead, and this sort of relates back to the Montague-Capulet peace treaty thing. You know, you want to be targeting things on the yellow square that are going to kind of help you on your way. Okay? So try and sort of think ahead in that respect, okay? So, okay, so we've already gone over, like, why, you know, Oscar wants to aim for this yellow square. So, you know, so in thinking about your incoming channels, we all have incoming channels, we all have Twitter, we all have Facebook, LinkedIn, what have you. You know, try and cluster them according to high parallelness and high liveness, and you know, shoot for those channels as much as you can, okay? But remember, you need to defend yourself at all times, okay? So if Oscar's pressuring Eve here a bit and Eve can't handle it, you know, maybe Oscar's coming with some kind of novel information, novel discovery, you know, and Eve just doesn't have the wherewithal to handle that. Remember, you know, Sybil that does the reputational attacks, so, you know, Sybil's the more technical one. Eve is just sort of listening in a bit. So, you know, if Eve is presented with, you know, something she can't handle, likely she's going to hit up the Mallory on that sequestration channel and, you know, get more resources from Mallory to sort of deflect this threat or nullify the threat, on her behalf, okay? But Mallory, this immediately actually puts Mallory in a tricky position, okay? Because, you know, if straight away, if Oscar's coming with some kind of bombshell information to Eve, that could, like some kind of whistleblowing information or something like that, you know, Mallory doesn't want Eve to understand how powerful that is, okay? So that's the first thing, because, you know, if Eve is sitting on powerful information, then Eve can essentially hold a gun to Mallory's head at this point, okay? And Mallory obviously doesn't want Oscar to get live, but the third thing is Mallory doesn't want Eve to open a sending channel to Sybil, okay? And Eve might want to do that to get more information and kind of understand where she stands with respect to the bigger picture, okay? But Mallory won't want that to happen, okay? So the first thing Mallory is probably going to do, from my experience, is use her diagonal. Once you moved into the yellow square, Mallory's going to use her sequestration channel from green to red to sort of activate the Care Bear superpower, which is to repudiate everything you're doing and to kind of mob you and make you feel like a terrible person for doing it, okay? And the answer to this sounds harsh, but it's very simple, okay? You know, be as nice as you can to these people, give them every benefit of the doubt, but if you ever feel that people are making ad hominem attacks against you, digging dirt on you, and generally just being nasty for the sake of it, don't be afraid to make examples of a few people and pin a few heads to your castle walls, okay? You know, it'll seem harsh at the time, but in the long run, people will respect you. And actually, the more you do this, it starts to cost Mallory a lot, and, you know, the repudiators start demanding more resources because it's a risky thing to do, and, you know, eventually Mallory will give up, okay? So yeah, Mallory will use her diagonal sequestration channel to attack you, you know, pay the Care Bears on the green square to attack you. It's basically a shock tactic. It can't be kept up for long. You know, just have simple defenses, you know, good recruitment mechanisms, you know, set out your stall in the right way, and you know, don't be afraid to make examples of a few people if they're being deliberately shitty, okay? Because that's kind of what's going to cost Mallory, is if the Care Bears go back to Mallory and say, oh, he's being really mean to us, and you know, we want more because playing this game hurts. You know, Mallory's going to give that up fairly quickly, okay? You know, Mallory doesn't want to recognize the cost of the life of a Care Bear, okay? That's one thing to bear in mind, okay? So, and, you know, use this as an opportunity to stamp your authority on things and declare your existence, your aliveness, okay? So then, you know, once the Care Bears are dealt with, you know, Mallory now has to sort of deal with Eve's demand for resources, which you can represent as a raise into the pot. And, you know, what Mallory will probably do is overbet into that to scare Eve away. You know, probably, especially if it's some kind of bombshell information, she'll overbet into that and, you know, try and make Eve give up the pot. But, you know, and Eve can't really call without more info from Sybil. So, you know, Eve's kind of in a shit or bust situation here as well. It's kind of a bit of a Mexican standoff thing. And what will most likely happen is that Eve will kind of get a small reward to try and hold you up and deceive you and keep you guessing, kind of thing, okay? So, you know, once Eve's demands become really kind of existential and that becomes a deadlock, what Mallory's likely to do then next is engage Sybil to either sequester Oscar or, you know, execute a reputational attack, okay? And this is how Mallory will seek to kill the threat, because if Oscar's really pressuring Eve, then Eve can start to do some nasty things to Mallory. So Mallory will then, you know, seek to engage the other side and just kill the threat to the stack, okay, by reputational attacks. And for engineers and professionals, these can be extremely costly and not kept up for long enough, life-threatening even. So we shouldn't take this lightly, okay? So, you know, Oscar's now under civil attack by Mallory. You know, Oscar's not a real engineer. He's not even a real person. He's a horrible person. We all hate him. We need to nail him to the cross, all that kind of stuff. So, so, you know, he needs to hit up the yellow square to get more resources to defend himself from the civil attack. Because, you know, if he's anything like an engineer or something, then it could be the end of him. Okay, so when hitting up the yellow square, you know, think about what channels you're using, you know, and how much and to what extent is Eve being Eve, or, you know, is she, you know, a member of Mallory's ship's crew, or is she just some kind of mercenary that Mallory's paying? You know, try and work out where people are coming from. A lot of people are just doing things to get by, make money, survive. And, you know, not everyone is, you know, some kind of like super malicious eavesdropper. You know, they're just traffickers of information or whatever. So, you know, try and size people up when you're dealing with them, okay? And because if you do that and you get good at it, you can start to turn or pressure weak Eves, you know, without too much effort, to be honest. You know, just being a kind of honest, decent person can be enough to swing the vote there, okay? And yeah, as usual, you know, box responsibly. Okay, you know, Oscar's under civil attack, and it could conceivably kill him, okay? If we're talking academia, engineering, the legal profession, medicine, you know, these things can be very, very nasty and can cost us a lot in life. So the thing to remember is Mallory's paying for this attack in essentially hard cash, okay? But the currency of a civil attack is reputational, psychological, educational, it's serialized respectness. So Mallory's having to trade out of cash into like reputational currency to keep up this attack, okay? And Oscar can kind of obtain these resources if he boxes clever in his push for the yellow square. So, you know, remember, especially if you really put Mallory in a bind, Mallory's going to be trading for this currency in a short squeeze, and you could really kind of put her under pressure. And on the plus side, you're winning, but on the downside, you know, this sort of stuff can get pretty crazy, okay? Well, people in desperate situations can behave pretty desperately, so just bear that in mind, okay? The info between the different parties, the info it gets back in a way that can be priced in a very asynchronous way, and so all these price movements that are dictating these moves are kind of price shocks, okay? So, and when people experience price shocks, it can feel a lot like a violent event. So you know, try not to let it sort of spiral out of control. You know, try not to get wrapped up in the heat of the moment, type of thing, okay? And be honest with yourself first. Like I said, like this map is as big as your awareness, okay? This map here, that's as big as your awareness is. So, you know, don't go further than you can see and further than you can understand. You know, attack what you kind of know well as much as you can, okay? And the thing to remember about the yellow square is it's highly contested ground, okay? That it's the kind of gamer square, the Call of Duty square. You know, that's where everyone's fighting over things, okay? So, and you can come under fire from all sides. So, you know, do your best to read as many books as you can. You know, learn to meditate, get your exercise, your sleep, a self-improvement regime, and, you know, take up hobbies, you know, building models or gardening. All kinds of things can teach you things while you're doing them that you wouldn't realize otherwise. So, you know, hobbies are a great thing to sort of prepare yourself for this journey, I think, okay? And, you know, when you're pushing for the yellow square, don't go with flakes and shirkers, okay? You want a strong team where like everyone's in it together and your incentives are well aligned, okay? Because you don't want to come under fire and see the guy who said he'd be with you all the way kind of look behind to see him like retreating and running for his life when it gets hard, okay? You want everyone to be pulling together, okay? And where necessary, test some channels, maybe throw some decoys out, see if anything draws fire. Don't mind throwing bait out and stuff like that. Test things with dummies before you test them with yourself, okay? But in saying that, don't appear to be too fake, okay? Because that's that can be another problem, okay? So be true to yourself, I think, and if you're true to yourself, it'll work out in the end, okay? But just bear in mind, if you're doing this kind of deception tactics too much, you can come off as fake and then kind of lose trust, which is really vital, okay? So first trips to the yellow square, you want to obtain intelligence, knowledge, and people resources. I'd say people resources are the most important, okay? If you finding good people solves most problems, okay? And there are good people out there, a lot of undervalued, very good, deep thinking, conscientious, hardworking people, okay? You want to go find them, okay? And after you've taken your trips to obtain the resources and the people, and you feel confident that then you can build some kind of fortification on the yellow square. But remember, it's a high stakes move, and make sure you've got a good hand and you're kind of confident you got the best of it, and everyone moves together when you do it, okay? Because if it goes wrong, that will not be good, okay? And for gamers in particular, the yellow square is the square of games and contests. So instead of just playing games, try and think more like a game designer. This book, The Art of Game Design, A Book of Lenses, is available for free online as a PDF. I'm not advising you get it for free, I'm advising you buy it, but it is available for free, okay? And you would do very well to read this. It's a wonderful book. It made me think about a lot of things in different ways. It's not just a great book about game design, it's a great book about design in general and being user-centric and people-centric, okay? And try, if you're a gamer, don't just play the usual games. Try and play some indie games, strategy games, puzzle games, different kinds of games, and then try and pick out unique mechanics in each one, and have some kind of like intelligent opinion about the benefits of some mechanics versus others, okay? You can't go wrong with the good old classics: Monopoly, chess, poker. I think poker in particular, you start getting into Bayesian decision theory, it really makes you deeply understand that decisions have costs and benefits and how to price them. That you can't go wrong with the classics either. And like I said, try and identify as many unique mechanics in different games as you can, okay? And try and become more like someone who makes games rather than someone who plays games, okay? Because that's what's really required on the yellow square, I would say, okay? So things that are going to help you speed, quick decision making, guerrilla tactics, say like being able to live off the land, being like confident in your ability to survive and kind of be annoying and be a problem. That's good on the yellow square, okay? Stealth, deception, deflection, and distraction. These are good, but like I said, like don't overuse them and over rely on them, because you'll appear fake and flaky, and you don't want to appear like that. But these things are still going to be useful. It's realpolitik, it's Machiavellianism. You're gonna need these tools in your tool belt, but don't overuse them, okay? Same with baiting, decoys. This is the most important one: competence, courage, and experience, okay? That's gonna see you through most things, and don't be afraid to kind of make a scene and be big, loud, and proud when necessary, okay? A nice balance of going in loud and proud and stealth is a good thing to find, okay? And in a war, concentrating your attacking force is such an important principle. I can't stress this enough. Read about it, Google it, and make sure you're concentrating your force at your enemy's weak points, okay? If you can do this right, you're probably most of the way there, okay? If you have this constraint your attacking force idea with the competence, courage, and experience, you know, that's probably enough, okay? And when making moves, don't do a bit of one thing and a bit of another. Make every move needs a purpose and needs to be backed up, okay? If you learn chess, you'll start to understand this, okay? You get punished very badly in chess for making kind of weak willy-nilly moves, okay? When you move strong, move together, and move with a purpose, okay? And you know, treat it as a special operation. There's quite a few interesting books on special operations in the military, and kind of different cultures and different countries understanding of it at different time periods. I would definitely recommend reading up on this stuff, because you know, essentially when you're pushing to the yellow square, it is essentially like a freestyle special operation, okay? And people have done this stuff before, and you do best to learn from their experience. So, you know, when you're making these first moves to the yellow square, you want to aim as parallel and live as you can. You kind of can't go wrong doing this to begin with, and you can do this just by clustering your channels and, you know, working out yourself which is the most parallel and live, and hitting for that. And of course it has to not just parallel and live, but like also like meeting with what you value as a human being and where you want to go, okay? I shouldn't have to say that, but maybe for some people I do, okay? So and this move is both offensive and defensive, okay? You can use it as an attacking move or as a defensive move. And you know, this starts to get into boxing, because you know, in boxing the jab and the slip are the same fundamental mechanical action, okay? One slips the punch, one throws a punch, okay? But the whole body moves in the same way, okay? So let's say Oscar is now successfully defending himself from Sybil attack. You know, he's camped out on the yellow square. He's doing pretty well. He's obtained enough resources. He's deflected all the Sybil attacks. Okay, now Sybil is going to start realizing that attacking Oscar is costly and potentially like existentially risky to continue. So Sybil is either going to start to demand insurance premiums from Mallory to keep up the attack, as essentially blood money, or is going to demand to get a receiving channel from Eve to get some kind of forewarning of what Oscar is doing on that yellow square. So either, and both of these are really bad for Mallory, because Mallory obviously doesn't want Eve to open a two-way channel with Sybil, because that's precisely the channel that Oscar wants to take, but likewise doesn't want this kind of order of magnitude increase in cost in keeping up the Sybil attack, okay? But you know, either way you price it, if you successfully get on the yellow square, Mallory's costs kind of go up 10x at that point, okay? And I think this is sort of why we get these kind of Seth Rich and Aaron Swartz incidents, because this kind of 10x cost increase can come out of the blue in a lot of ways, and it can make especially kind of weedy cubicle jockey people and politicians and those kinds of people, it can make them panic and make kind of rash decisions. And I think this is sort of why Seth Rich, Aaron Swartz, these kinds of people, they end up being found dead or strung up from a tree or whatever, because you know, unfortunately the people in power are often not mature and of the sort of right stature and leadership qualities to engage with this stuff in a way befitting of a real leader, okay? So you know, what should Oscar watch out for? Well, if he's doing well, and you know, if he's hitting this sort of 10x point, he's probably going to experience social exclusion, you know, some form of censorship, smear campaigns, Chinese whispers, you know, being blackballed, all that typical stuff, you know, spurious legal cases and accusations, you know, threats and intimidation, like passive and overt aggression, you know, the whole gamut of things. But this is basically because, you know, Mallory, this has cost Mallory a lot of essentially hard cash, okay? And Mallory has attempted to externalize that cash cost onto Oscar's social reputation, okay? So, yeah, the thing to remember about this from a hard economic theory perspective is that Oscar's successes cost Mallory in hard cash, okay? Oscar's successes cost him in social and reputational capital, okay? So this is how you can even the playing field and sort of balance it, you know, without even spending any money, okay? It's if you're Oscar, it's Mallory spending the money, you're not, okay? So, and this makes me start to think that the purpose of AI is more about personal protection and protecting us from what kinds of information we share online, and sort of reducing the risk of interacting with networks that can behave maliciously, you know, than it is about sort of social credit scores or any of that stuff personally, okay? So, you know, this just highlights a few moves that I've come across in my time, okay? I think I highlighted this one first because it's very useful. You know, I could term this the kind of pawing jab or the spoiler, and you can find YouTube videos on this stuff. And essentially you sort of plant something right on this inside yellow corner, and that essentially blocks Sybil's line of sight into that chunk of the yellow square, a big chunk of the yellow square, okay? And what this is going to do, it's going to do two things. First, it's going to block Sybil's line of sight. Secondly, as a pro gamer move, you can, when you see Sybil attacking this, if Sybil has a pattern in how she attacks this pawing jab, okay, I think it's like Thomas Hearns. There's a video of Thomas Hearns training his opponent on the pawing jab and then just letting go the right. So you can actually start to bait your opponents into bad habits with this kind of move, and then maybe, you know, come over the top with the right hook, okay? You know, anything hitting this interface between yellow and blue, I would call like a power shot. So, you know, something like this, you know, is quite analogous to a right hook. Okay, something like this is like an uppercut. You know, anything on the inside, these kind of inside shots on this top line here kind of relates well with boxing on the inside. Okay, pivoting out, you know, don't do this passively too often. You'll be seen as weak and people will try and clock you as they see you retreating, okay? So, you know, standard responsibility when doing this stuff, you know, switching out, switching in, you know, again, sort of similar to a pawing jab again, okay? Pivoting in, okay, you know, and this kind of switching in and pivoting in, again, you're kind of blocking line of sight, getting up on the inside, okay? This is a good place to be if you can get here. It's kind of tough because you need to have something that's kind of quite highly technical, but if you can get in there, it's a great place to be, okay? And then, you know, things you probably shouldn't do are things like this, okay? You know, that's like throwing a crazy haymaker in boxing, okay? You're probably going to get hurt, so just, you know, be smart, okay? So, you know, welcome to 21st Century Fight Club, okay? And I would implore you to think more about this. I've given it some thought in my perspective, but, you know, can you expand further upon the decision space, which I briefly considered, and, you know, can you think of any analogies from these moves that I've shown from other sports or games? You know, there's probably similar analogies in chess or perhaps fencing or I don't know, maybe even Rocket League. Who knows? Okay. Can you think of any moves that you could do in your daily life, or sort of more in general that kind of people might do in general from your experience, okay? And then this is so important, you know, from everything you can think of, can you rank these moves in terms of risk reward, Okay, that's so important. Not doing the first thing that comes into your head, but having a strategy and some kind of plan, and like understanding what you can risk versus like what you want, because decisions incur costs. Okay. Unfortunately, our leaders today don't really seem to understand that too well, but they do. Okay. And if we're talking blockchain and cryptocurrency and things like that, like what sort of blockchain solutions can help create defenses on the yellow square, either in the specific or in general? Okay, I've thought of one in general, and it's to create a game kind of like dominoes, where people place tiles according to Penrose aperiodic tiling on a plane. Okay, and this has the potential to keep a game live forever, with any kind of game mechanics. And you can kind of start off with dominoes, but later you could perhaps move into poker-like mechanics. And then with poker, you're risking to gain. So maybe you have some kind of Git repo even, and then you put your Git repo into one of these tiles, and then according to the game mechanics, you either get someone else's information, or you have to give up your information to someone else or to the collective or whatever. So we're starting to turn like engineering knowledge into stakes in a game, that can help knowledge to be mixed, but in a way that's fair. Okay, and in a way that can be taken down. The other beautiful thing about Penrose tiling is that the pattern can't be predicted any better than the golden ratio, than phi. Okay, so no AI is going to be able to predict the outcome of this Penrose tile game better than an AI can calculate phi to however many significant figures. So this is also a great way to put a throttle on those sequestration channels and Sybil attacks. Okay, but that's just one idea. Okay, that's just what I came up with. I might go into it in more detail in a later talk. It's still quite new. I kind of came up with it this week, but it seems to have a lot of promise, I think. And it's very simple to build as well. Like, got one guy, a couple of guys working on it. Probably turn it around in a month or so, a prototype. So, let's see what happens with that. I'm very excited. So, in part 4, we'll start looking into why these are called Romeo-Juliet diagrams. And it's not so much about Romeo and Juliet being on the green and the blue square. It's more about Romeo and Juliet being on the yellow and the red square, and how that can lead to deathly embrace. Okay, and so deathly embrace is the thing we have to watch for when making this kind of backwards diagonal movement from yellow to red. Okay, because if the constraints aren't set right in the game we've made on yellow, then we could kill Sybil, but we could also kill ourselves. Okay, and we want to win. We don't want the double KO. We want the clean win. Okay, so and yeah, we'll look into why the push to yellow needs to fundamentally change the game dynamic with Sybil, and also we've pinned a few Care Bear heads to our castle war, but we're gonna have to go back and make peace with them. But if you've done it right, if you haven't been too harsh, and you've kind of at least been fair with how you've dealt with these repudiation attacks to begin with, they'll respect you'll be respected. You'll be seen as a bit of a kind of a Dark Lord, Christian Bale, Batman kind of figure, and they'll be on board with you. Okay, as long as you're not too nasty. There's a lot of opportunity to get, because it's the green square that's going to provide the pressure to push you up to red. Okay. And that's it for now. I very much appreciate everyone listening all around the world. Please, this is not so much me like laying the foundation. This is me being a bit more creative and trying to explain it from my perspective. But it's a game, and games can go any number of ways. I've just given a few obvious ones, but I implore you to think for yourselves. And let's start building collective intelligence around, collective intelligence not being a crappy kind of cop out, and actually being really engaging and interesting, because I really think it can be if we do it properly. Okay, thanks, bye.